One of the other things that's been in storage that I've pulled out is the old jukebox that I've got over here. When we put it into storage, noticed that the radio had stopped working for some reason, and since we've pulled it out of storage, I found that the only part of electronics that's still working on it is the outer light ring section of it, and even that seems to be quite dim. So I'm guessing that the internal power supply may be dying in it. Rather than just trying to replace that power supply, I thought I'd actually go through and upgrade the internal components to sort of modernise everything a little bit and bring it a little bit more up to spec in terms of today's components. It's a Chinese copy type one. It doesn't contain any real records or anything like that, so the internal space of it is all pretty hollow. And once I pull out the old components, I should have even more space to work with in terms of the new components I want to put in there. So for now, I'm going to strip this down to its base components, have a look at what I've got, see what's working and see what's not working, and see if I can basically get a new machine out of an old one. So that's all the components that have been gutted out of it now. It's basically just the hollow shell. The reason why I did that is because I do want to paint it, or it all gets put back together. And it means that I won't have to mask off any of the pieces that are associated with it, and then I'll be able to go through and give those pieces a really good clean. The bits, the pile of stuff that's there, that's the components that's come out of it that I don't want or are faulty. The amp that came out of it, the original amp that came out of it, looks like it might be dead as well. The original lighting in it was these little button LEDs. I think they may have had too much power pushed through them at some point, which is why the LEDs have gone a lot dimmer than they were originally. I'll go through this pile before I chuck everything out to see if there's anything that's actually salvageable in it, but for the most part I think that's pretty much the junk pile that's come out of it. I've got some LED light strip on order, which is what I'm going to replace that with and go around that outside edge. Beyond that, the rebuild of it I think will include a little touch screen in there that will allow us to get the conductivity for the internet and allow us to access the songs we want. And in the front section where the old stereo was, I'm going to mount a more modern car stereo in there that's got a CD loader in the front of it. I hope to keep the original front piece. This is the bit that I'm talking about where we'll cut that out. So I've replaced the old style LEDs. It's quite a bit brighter than the original ones to begin with, but I've also doubled them up on the outer ring, which is where I want the most light to sort of be shining through. And I've been able to feed it through in such a way that it's all in one continuous piece. At this stage I haven't had to make any cuts or joins. It does have a sticky back to it, but I found that because of the bend that it has to take, it's far easier to just cable tie everything into place. Now that I've got that done, I can reconnect the diffusers and covers to the outside edge of it, and we can see what it looks like in terms of the brightness. So there it is with all the lights put back together, and that is so much brighter than what it used to be, so I'm really pleased with the way that's come out. Because of the system that it is now, it comes with the remote that comes with it, which means I can change the different colouring, so it's really quite effective. And as I said, it's a lot brighter than the original, so very happy with the way that's coming along so far. So in the end, the only thing I ended up recycling was pretty much the outer shell itself. The switches and stuff I was able to reuse, but the power switch did need to be replaced. It had a fault in it as well. So it definitely had some issues, but all in all I'm pretty happy with the way it's come together. The internal speakers, I probably could have reused it, and I did fiddle around trying to get it to work properly, but at the higher volumes it had a crackle that just wouldn't go away. So in the end I pulled apart some standard speakers and just used the front panel section of them to mount them in there. And they both work and sound a lot better than the originals anyway. Other than that, I've got a power board up the top there that holds the power supplies for the separate components, and I've got each component separately wired. Technically now it's all the 12 volt system, and the only real exception to that is the small one there, just the little panel lights, and that's like when the power on indicator light is, and then the other one there is just the charger that I'm using for the Nexus pad. You can see the silhouette of it sitting there on the plastic. All I've got to do is put the back cover on now, and it's pretty much ready to go. So there it is, all finished up now, pretty much ready to go. At the moment I've just set it up in my lounge room, but eventually it'll be put out in the man cave area when that area is all finished. The total refit of it only cost about $60 because I had most of the components. It's a Nexus pad that I'm using for the internet connection, as well as the storage of music files that I want. The old car stereo that I'm using is just a second-hand one that I got from a parts dealership. It cost about $40. And I got the lights off eBay for about 20 bucks. The major differences I ended up doing with it is pulling out the old radio. That's where the car stereo has now been mounted. And the section below that where the amp control used to be, I've just mounted a little magnet in there and put some diffuser in there for the added light, and that magnet just holds the remote in place when it's not being used. Other than that, I've tried to keep everything looking pretty much the same. The original power switch now powers up everything within the system, and the original light switch does turn off the lights if you don't want them to be displayed. Apart from that, when that is on, the remote control does control all the features as far as the lighting is concerned, including whether or not you want them to be constant or flashing or any variation therein. So it's really just a matter of how you want to have it set. I'm not going to put any commercial music on it because I don't want to get it pegged for copyright, but that's the radio set up just with a bit of static going, so you can see that it obviously works. And apart from the radio and the CD that's built in there as well, I can switch the stereo over to the Bluetooth. And at the moment, again, just so I don't get pegged for copyright, I'm just using some samples of the YouTube music that's available. Basically, having it set up that way, I can switch through whichever one I want to. And it just leaves the graphics running there in the background. The little cable there has it on constant charge, so it's always charging. But the final thing I've done with it is that I've got it set up so that it can be removed, and this has got a couple of magnets that I've put on the back of it, so you can take it with you and sit down on the couch with it, or if you're working in the kitchen or something, you can mount it up on the fridge like that and just have the control set up close to you as well. The other advantage with doing it that way, obviously, is that it has full internet access, so you can get onto whatever YouTube videos and all that sort of stuff you want to watch as well, or have, you know, other downloaded content that you might want. So that's pretty much how the rebuilds come up. I'm pretty happy with the overall look of it, and the sound quality is quite nice. If you have any questions about it, just ask me in the comment section. I'll do what I can do to help. But anyway, guys, that's the update for this time. Thanks for watching. Talk to you next time.